Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, How to Frame Your 2022 Goals with Strengths. And now I am pleased to introduce to you Sara Regan. She is our CEO and founder of Strengths Now, a consulting firm based in Massachusetts. Sara was one of the first people worldwide to become an independent Gallup certified strengths coach. She has helped thousands of people discover their strengths through one-on-one coaching and through team workshops.
Thank you, Danielle, and welcome everyone. I recognize a few names of people who've joined us, so glad to have you here with us today. And to let you know, really what this is all about is that we know that using our strengths can strengthen our performance. And similarly, perhaps using our weaknesses would weaken our performance. So even though this sounds like common sense, I would argue that it's not necessarily common practice because it almost requires that we undo a lifetime of thinking about what drives exceptional performance. But what we know is that it's actually our strengths that represent our sweet spot for potential. We can't necessarily ignore our weaknesses, but we want to always be investing in our strengths. So one thing to do to just get us started here is to think of a goal that you have in mind and just go ahead and write that down. Take a piece of paper nearby, something that you know is a target for you this year. You won't be sharing it with anybody, but just to have one in mind as we go forward. And now what I'll ask you to do, maybe you didn't finish writing it, but go ahead and switch your pen or pencil to your other hand and write the same thing down again. And most likely, if you have been playing along, you would find that that experience of using your non-dominant hand was maybe frustrating, that it takes longer, that you're not necessarily as happy with the outcome. It can affect that productivity. So quality and quantity might suffer. And perhaps you're like, what's the point? What's the purpose here? Or why are we doing this in the first place? When can it be over? And that's just a bit of a quick kinesthetic example of the difference between using our strengths or focusing on our strength zone versus using our weaknesses. And our agenda is that you will be learning about the power of strengths and how to identify your superstar talents. You're going to hear examples about how to apply your strengths to different types of goals. I've picked out a few that are probably ones that you'll be developing or working towards this year. So we'll sync up those goals with your strengths. And then we'll also be giving you multiple resources and some templates to help get you started. Concept here is really around talent. And I wanted to say this, especially for people who maybe had not done Clifton Strengths before, but we know that talent is that naturally recurring pattern of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that can be productively applied. So the Clifton Strengths assessment really points you towards your areas of natural talent. We can see some examples here. Telling stories that engage an audience. Perhaps that comes very easily to you. And even when you're outside of work, that might be something that you are known for. Seeing patterns in data, things that other people don't spot, spotting it more quickly, or building trust with a wide range of people. Those could be considered talents. And it was from there that Don Clifton, who's the father of this positive psychology movement and has given a lot of thought in interviewing people to come up with these 34 different talent themes. We know also that your strengths make you very unique, and that the chance of meeting someone with your same top 5 strengths in exact order is very rare. It's actually 1 in 33 million. Now I want to talk about some of the goals that are probably on your list going forward. One of them may be an organizational competency. So this could be perhaps something that's expected of all employees. There may be 5 or 8 or 10 competencies, ways that the organization is asking everybody to live into the certain values of the organization. We can also have performance goals. So these are a little bit more person specific, and there's a target for your work, and it's usually agreed upon between employee and manager, and that there's a regular time set to follow up and check in. And these are important because they're often tied to promotion, to compensation, or even dismissal, that it could be a performance improvement plan. We also know that there are development goals. So this is where you may have a little bit more say in what your goals are, because they can map to your career plan and help guide you in setting a course to build skills and knowledge that will really help prepare you for the future. And then lastly, I also wanted to just touch on personal goals, which I'm sure you all know what that means. But let's now look at some different examples. So we'll take an example from each category and do that exercise of syncing and mirroring strengths with that. So the first one we'll talk about is competencies. And for this one, I chose the competency of taking initiative, knowing that that might be something that rings true, or some version of that in many of your organizations. And so now let's imagine two different employees who have very different strengths would approach this differently. And that's fine. That's what we would encourage. So let's say employee A has strengths that include things like developer, includer, relator. And for those of you who are getting steeped in your StrengthsFinder knowledge and lingo, you would know that these strengths maybe really help somebody to notice someone who's struggling, that developer is really tuned into maybe opportunities to train or help somebody else grow and improve. There are strengths that are very good at noticing people on the periphery. Includer is aware of when maybe somebody feels a little more distant from the group. Maybe you're particularly good at noticing how to build trust with colleagues or a vendor or a client because of those strengths. So now if the competency is to take initiative, one thing that may work well for somebody with this profile would be seeking out an opportunity to formally mentor someone, or to maybe design a mentoring program, create an onboarding tool for people, or hosting a welcoming gathering for new staff, or even being part of a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee working group. So this would be a way that employee A's strengths might naturally sync with taking initiative. Now let's look at a different set of strengths and maybe do a little compare and contrast. We'll call this person employee B, with a different set of strengths: restorative, consistency, and analytical. And these strengths might make employee B very good at noticing things that are broken, finding the bug in the system, or tackling projects that other people have maybe dismissed because they seem too messy or too hard. So this person might decide to take initiative by tackling that broken system, or creating a more efficient process, maybe training people on that process, or using that analytical theme to measure the impact. Maybe there's an efficiency that the person has been able to implement and able to document, we reduced wait time by X, or we increased profits by X because of this initiative. So what you want to be doing is looking at those competencies and seeing what maybe speaks to your strengths and setting that as an action to take, because you will be more engaged, you're going to be more likely to be successful. And it really represents the easy button. Sometimes we talk about using our weaknesses as the path of most resistance, and that's why we want to stay in that strength zone. Let's take another goal, which this time will focus on the performance goal. So this is that person-specific goal. And the one I chose to talk about is decision-making, because I wanted to share a bit of a case study from someone who I've been doing some work with. I'm in the process of doing a 360 for this person right now, so I've been gathering a lot of input. One of the things that she has been working on is decentralized decision-making, kind of empowering other people in the organization to be able to take action, and also working to make decisions a little more quickly. So these are a few of her strengths: learner, input, and individualization. She's a really knowledgeable, credible person. She works in a complicated field of global health, and she leans on that learner input to be so well informed, to be able to talk with the scientific community, government communities, wealthy donors and funders. And so they serve her very well in many instances, but those same strengths are actually getting in the way when it comes to the decision making. And so that's another way to think about our strengths and our goals, is to ask, how do they help us? But could they actually be interfering with this particular person? Learner and input makes her very curious. So when there has been a decision to make, in some ways it slowed down because she wanted more information. She asked more questions. Individualization, wanted to seek another person's opinion. And so she knew that that was one of the things that was a potential watch out when it came to decision making. So some strategies here, and I recommend these for everyone, are to build awareness. Could strengths get in the way? And collaborate. Who else can help? And target a different strength. So those are some examples. The last one we'll share is development goals. You want to be investing in your greatest area of talent. Think of that 10,000 hour rule, where we know that it takes about 10,000 hours to become really, really good at something. So perhaps if harmony is your strength, you want to invest in something related to arbitration or negotiation. And lastly, I'll talk about personal goals, because I think after this year, it's going to be one of the ones that's really important that we pay attention to. And so what we want to do is also sync our goals with things that replenish our soul and what really honors and engages our strengths outside of work. So Danielle is going to be uploading some resources to the chat that help you think through your 34 strengths and give you some tips and hints about how to apply your strengths. We also have a template that gives you an opportunity to do some reflecting and writing, and that comes to us from Gallup, and it's specific to goal setting. So I wanted to be able to share that with you as well. So thank you for joining us today. Wish you all the best success in 2022 in reaching those goals that are important to you.